Alright, drafters, here today with the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty limited achievement list today, and it is a list of things which is a bit like Xbox achievements or PlayStation trophies, where if it was on one of those systems you might get achievements and trophies for doing these specific things in the specific formats, and it's just really a bit of fun to look at some of the crazy things that you can do in the format and some things which are pretty sweet to do if you can get it done at the draft table. Thank you for everybody who is a new watcher of the channel. The last video did absolutely amazingly well, so much more than I could have ever expected. Planned to get bottom target of about 12 new subscribers, and I got 100 so far, and that's still going up now. So really can't thank all the new subscribers enough, and I hope you do enjoy this. If you haven't subscribed, of course you can do that below, but before anything else, let's get into the first cool achievement. First one up is free building, and this is one which I think is actually quite tough, especially for the first one coming out. They do tend to get a bit harder and more difficult to do as you go through, but it does kind of only require one uncommon here, so that's why I've kept it low on the list. And it's got this ability where it's normally 8 mana, but you get one. It costs 1 less if you control for each modified creature that you control. So each modified creature, that's something with a counter on it, or on it, or an equipment on it, means that it's going to be 1 cheaper. There is also another way you can do this, which I think makes it slightly easier. The blue-red signpost uncommon makes artifacts cost 1 less, and that will reduce this as well. So that's another way you can get it to be cheaper. It is going to be quite difficult, but it's doable, and I think it definitely earns a place on this list. Next up is the Sisters Yamazaki, and this is a throwback to the original Kamigawa, where there was a single card called the Brothers Yamazaki, and it was legendary, but you could have 2 out, and they got bonuses if they had this. And they've purposely reference this in these cards. They've named the 2 sisters this time, so obviously this is set in the future. It's a different generation, but they've named these 2 sisters, and it's just simply get both of them out. Probably a little bit easier than the first one. I should have probably had this first, but there we are. And I think it's cool. It'll be cool when you get it done. It's not going to happen that often. The 2 don't have a huge amount of synergy with each other. One doesn't necessarily play off the other, but they do have a little bit of synergy going on, and I think in the red-white deck it'll be cool. It'll happen. It won't happen to everybody, but I do think it deserves to be celebrated when it does. Next one is Why Won't You Die? And it's because it's a cool card. First of all, it's a 3 mana 3/2 flyer, which is cool, but it's got reconfigure. And the interesting part here is if it's equipped to a creature, so it doesn't happen when it just exists by itself, but if it's equipped to a creature, then that creature's controller can't lose the game, and the opponents can't win the game. So if you have a negative life total, or his life total is 0, then you don't lose straight away, unless this becomes unequipped from the creature, or this leaves a battlefield or something like that. And this is definitely the type of thing that we want on the achievement list. You want to be in a losing position, negative life, no cards left in your library or something like that, and have this on the battlefield stopping you from losing. And again, something which is definitely worth doing, and it'll be really interesting to see. Another one, we usually have a variation on this theme, and I think this is a really spicy one. The Fixin' favourite, and it is just cast the Kami War, because it's going to be really difficult to cast. There's not a huge amount of fixing in the set. There's a couple of treasures here and there. You've got the gain lands in the land slot as well, I think, for at least part of the time. And, it's going to be quite difficult to cast. It's a mythic, so you actually get the mythic in the pack and then cast it. You might be doing something crazy with shrines, but otherwise I think it's going to be really difficult to cast this, but we'll wait and see. I'm sure somebody out there will have had Tiamat's cast, although that was a format with treasure, a lot more treasure. But it's not meant to be easy, it's meant to be fun. Coming up next, Consume the Win. And if you've got to win the game or lose the game condition in the set, you've got to include it in the format. And this one, if you flip it over, it does have your opponent loses the game. It is a pretty difficult one to get off, though, I have to say. You've got to deal extra damage with the flipped creature in a single hit, and that's going to be quite tough. But it's doable. There's definitely some equipments in this format that can do this. But let's be honest, if you're getting this far with this enchantment creature, with this saga, then you're probably going to be winning anyway. Next up, we've got Tamiyo, the completed stage. And yes, okay, yeah, she's been completed. Very sad. Never mind that. Let's get to the fun part of the draft. And if you ultimate Tamiyo, of course you get you don't get an emblem, you get an artifact. So if your opponent manages to ultimate Tamiyo, and you've got some artifact removal in hand, you can destroy that. And they could well have got rid of the Tamiyo to get this artifact. It's quite powerful, you get tapped to draw a card. It makes instance sorcery or just spells cost 2 less. I can't remember which. And they're going to be quite well ahead. Even if you destroy it, they're going to be quite well ahead. But it's really fun to destroy an emblem. Let's be honest. We've not managed to do that before, and it's a pretty cool interaction to have. Now, this does require a lot of things to go right. It requires the opponent to have Tamiyo. It requires the opponent to ultimate Tamiyo, and it requires you to be able to destroy their artifact. So there's quite a few things that need to go on in that situation, but let's be honest, even if you lose that game, it's going to be considered a win in my books. Next one, is one which I think it's a penultimate one, but I think a lot of people might expect it to be the last one. And this is using Mech Titan Core to create the Megazord or Voltron or whatever you want to call it. Depends which universes that you like to follow and you like to follow when you're a kid. But it's really cool. It's my favourite here, to be honest, but there is one more which I think is going to be slightly harder to do and more impressive if you manage to pull it off, which is why I've kept it for last. But, you know, being able to turn this into the Megazord, that's what I'm going for, then, you know, it's going to win the game most of the time. You might not, but, you know, it is a very, very good way to win the game, and I think that's the one which is holding a lot of people out. But there is one more, and of course, it's going to be Shrine Yahtzee. And you know what? I'm really ashamed of how late in the day when I was going through this list that I came up with this one. But you're going to have all 5 shrines on the battlefield at once. And, you know, you can't have more than 5 on unless you have the mirror box out. Okay, that's a different way of doing it. But, you know, you can have all 5 out. And then you should win the game from there. You know, it's going to do ridiculous things. Yes, you need to pay at the end of the turn, but, you know, these things are going to go quite well for you. I think it's going to be harder to do than in previous formats because I think the shrines by themselves are really good this time for the most part, not all of them. But I think they are generally good things that you'd probably want to put in a one colour deck, or, you know, just if you've only got one shrine for your deck, you'd still probably want to put it in. But they do get exponentially better in multiples. So I think this is going to be the hardest one to pull off, but actually the most impressive one as well. It's going to do some really cool things. It's really on flavour, and it's really difficult. So I think it definitely deserves shouting out. And if you want to shout it out, I'd love to hear you on Twitter at PLD_MTG, or just comment below with what you managed to do. I think it'll be really fun. If I manage to do any of these, I'll probably tweet them up. I've also got a code here for, I think it's just a single pack of AFR. I got it from F&M the other week. So again, just sharing it where I can. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you come back for some more gameplays in the next few days, and I hope you do really well at Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. Catch you all soon.